Welcome to the Baby Bunting Live series. This is season 2 and episode 34. Tonight we're talking about toilet training and how to know when and how to start. We have invited Belinda Joyce along again tonight to answer our questions as well as yours. Belinda is a midwife, a maternal and child health nurse and author of Survive and Enjoy Your Baby. Thanks again for joining us, Belinda. We're going to cover, as I mentioned, all things toilet training. So if you do have any questions throughout the episode, please pop them in the comments box and we'll get to those questions at the end of the session. We also have a very fabulous giveaway tonight, and lucky viewer, reader will receive this prize worth over $150. It's basically got all the essentials that you need to take your child on the toilet training journey. So to go into the draw, we just need you to pop in the comments box any piece of advice throughout tonight that you've found most helpful. So Belinda, when is the best time to start toilet training our children?
Look, toilet training, like everything else with babies and young children, there isn't one specific age or time, but usually somewhere around 2 is a good time to start. So maybe a bit before or a bit after is often when you'll notice those signs of readiness. And with learning to toilet train, it is actually a developmental milestone when your baby or toddler is able to hold, get a full bladder, hold that and get to the toilet, or to actually notice that they're ready to do a poo.
Okay. What signs can parents and carers actually look out for and to know that the child might be ready for toilet training?
So there's lots of different little signs. So following you to the toilet and wanting to know more about what you're doing. Telling you when they've got a dirty nappy, or when they're soiled and they're uncomfortable and want to get those clothes off, when they're able to pull up and down their pants, because that's really important that they can actually use their clothing. When they're walking is usually also really important, because even if they've met those other got some of those other signs, they really do need to be able to get there themselves as well.
Sure.
So that's just a few.
Yep. And when's a good time to start toilet training?
Yeah. So I guess it's a really good time to wait until you've got some extra time. So not when the family's got a very busy couple of weeks ahead of them. Maybe when you're on annual leave, that could be a really great time when you're not having to run out the door and got a lot of pressure on, so you can give your child that extra time and allow for some accidents and extra washing and things.
Yes.
And cleaning. And it's also, here in the southern states, we often will say to people, wait till the summer after your child turns 2. And that's just because in winter it's so cold that it's easier to toilet train in summer, to do all the washing and the cleaning and those sorts of things. But really it can be any time that suits you and you're seeing those signs of readiness.
Okay. And when is a good time to start the toilet training?
Look, like I was saying, when you're ready for it.
Yep.
And if the child's asking to actually start as well, so we're wanting them to show some interest rather than just taking them along for the ride.
And what are some tips for starting out?
Oh, look, obviously getting some of the equipment in your home is really helpful, and following their lead as well.
And is there any way parents should dress their children in a particular way whilst they're toilet training?
Absolutely. So we want really simple clothing. So if it's summer and it's hot, just a pair of some underwear, and they don't need a heap else, because it can just get in the way and make it more difficult. But generally, just making sure that their clothes can be pulled up and down easily by them. Nothing like overalls that need parents to help, and not too many buttons and zips and those kinds of things really helps.
So keeping it quite simple.
Very simple.
Belinda, what equipment's available to help parents?
There's a huge amount of equipment available that can take you all the way through your toilet training journey. So starting out with something as simple as just a little potty. So something like this you can just put on the floor and let your child sit in it at any time. They don't need to take their nappy off and their trousers off. They can actually give that a go any time and start getting used to it. They're super light and easy just to take around with you as well. So if you were going to a friend's house, you could just pop that in the car and take it with you. And then we go to something a little bit fancier, their own toilet. And I believe when you press the flush button, we get, you know, a reward of some music, which is kind of cool. Some of these little inserts that go onto the toilet seat, so onto the big toilet, can be great. This particular one's really soft and squishy, so they're not sitting on a cold, hard toilet seat. They can work really well, and there's even a travel option for that as well that folds up that you can take with you for when you're out and about. The step-ups are a really great option, so something like this that actually hooks onto the side of the toilet and has the step up there as well, so that they can go straight to the big toilet. Every family tends to do toilet training a little bit differently, so you might try different options and see what works best for your family. There's also all the training pants and wet bags and things like that too that can be really great.
Throughout those early stages. Should parents keep reminding their child to go to the toilet when they're doing the potty training?
Just in the first couple of days, it's okay to do that, and it makes sense. You want them to have success, and you don't want to have lots of accidents, so it makes sense in those first couple of days. But really what we want is for your baby and toddler to learn when their bladder's full and when they need to empty it, or when they need to do a poo, and to go and sit down and actually do that, rather than being sort of toilet timed and having to sit on the toilet for long periods of time waiting for it to happen. So it is better to try and help them learn. And obviously if you're out and about, or they're really distracted playing with another child, it is worth interrupting them occasionally and asking, do you need to go and sit on the potty? Because they might forget in those sorts of situations.
So just a little gentle reminder.
Yes.
Okay. And so how about with boys? Should they sit or should they stand?
Oh, it is a tricky one, and again, it's a personal choice really for that family. Early on, it's probably a good idea just to sit them on the toilet or on the potty, because they might not be sure whether they're going to do a wee or a poo, and that way they're set for either. But as they get older and they're often wanting to be like dad and to stand up, there's some really great devices that you can get, like this one, that suctions onto the wall, and they actually aim for this little froggy. Some families put a ping pong ball into the toilet for them to aim at as well, because that's another whole skill, and it can get quite messy. So keep in mind that you will need to be cleaning the toilet, around the toilet, and in areas you don't normally have to clean, and that's just while they're getting used to it, and to be expected.
Of course. And do you have some tips to help children for when they need to wipe themselves?
Wiping is another big skill to learn, and they need the dexterity in their fingers and their hands to actually do that well, and it will be a little bit messy to start with, so helping them, just like we would with brushing their teeth, helping them to do it themselves, and then also doing it yourself to finish up and make sure everything's clean. And then afterwards, actually with girls, it's really important to make sure you go from the front to the back, so teach little girls to do that. It reduces the chance of getting urinary tract infections, and then afterwards making sure that you teach them how to wash their hands and dry their hands really well, because it will get messy.
Belinda, have you heard of infant toilet training that's commonly used in other places around the world, such as Africa and Asia, Latin America?
Yeah, I have. It's a form of toilet training where babies don't wear nappies, and they're either from birth or from 3 to 6 months. They're actually held over a toilet or a potty numerous times during the day, and they'll do their wee or their poo into the toilet or potty. And an amazing communication, I guess, happens between often it's the mother, the primary carer, and the baby, where they learn the baby's cues and when they need to wee or poo, and they'll undress them and pop them over. But the babies also learn to hold on and wait until they're undressed and ready to do it. So it's quite an amazing achievement, really. And in Australia, or I guess in the Western world, it's becoming a more popular practice, because we've seen some celebrities posted on social media, I guess.
Okay.
It's not necessarily that helpful if your baby was to go to childcare or to be looked after by anybody else. They wouldn't know all those cues. They're very, very, I guess you have to know that child extremely well to be able to pick up on them. So I guess, and there's no one here really teaching people how to do it either, but it's something you could learn more about.
It certainly sounds interesting,
Yeah.
for sure. Can you tell us some pointers about travelling after a child's been potty trained, and what are the
Yes.
best tips there?
So when you're heading out after your child's been toilet trained on a holiday, perhaps it's a driving holiday and you're in the car for quite a lot of time, it's very worrying thinking they're going to wet their pants in the car, and they sometimes will. I did see an amazing item here that you can get to go into the car seat that will save your car seat, and I thought that was a really great invention because it can be a little bit stressful. But remembering that each time you get to a new place, taking your child to the toilets there, showing them that there are toilets everywhere you go, not just back at home. If you're needing to go to the toilet, taking them in with you and showing them around so that they become familiar with using public toilets as well.
Okay, and perhaps packing that little potty survival kit.
Yes, a potty survival kit's a really good idea. So some wet wipes, a wet bag, something like this that you can put anything that does become wet into it, and always an extra set of clothes as well.
Belinda, obviously these things take time. What if it's not working? What's the suggestions for parents?
It's really common the first time or the first couple of times you start to toilet train your child for it to not go successfully, because we know that children actually have to learn to be able to hold that urine. They need to get the messages to their brain to tell them that their bladder's full. There's a lot that actually has to happen with their development to make toilet training be a successful process. So if your child's not ready and you're not getting a lot of success, and in fact you're having a lot of accidents and it's upsetting the child, it's really important to just stop and wait a few weeks and then start again. And in that few weeks, if they don't ask to start it again, just wait the full couple of weeks. But if they start getting interested themselves and really motivated and wanting to do it, then get back to it.
Okay, and I think you've mentioned that sort of between age 2 and age 4 there's major cognitive differences, and that can also play a part in when the timing might be right.
Absolutely, and a 2-year-old may toilet train, and a 4-year-old might start to toilet train, and they're both considered normal.
Yeah, I think that's important to remember. And why do some children refuse to do a poo on the toilet or the potty?
Yeah, look, it is a thing that a lot of toddlers will do, and even preschoolers not wanting to sit on the potty to do a poo, and there's a lot of different reasons why they can be doing that. Some of them, it's just because when they've done the poo and hopped off the potty, they don't like the look of it, the smell of it. It gives them a bit of a fright, because you've got to realise they haven't really seen it before in the same way when we've been changing their nappies. And for some, they could have had quite a hard poo and actually hurt their bottom the last time they pooed, and then they're likely to withhold and avoid doing a poo at all. Some don't like having to sit for too long on the potty or the toilet, so they, unless they're really needing to go and you sit them down and they're able to pass that poo straight away, if they have to sit and wait for that message to kind of come back, or that urge to come back, they could be playing. They don't want to sit there and wait. And some, it seems they just really want to go to a quiet place where no one sees them and have their nappy on and just sort of hide and do it that way. So it can be tricky. Using some sort of a reward chart, like a sticker chart, can sometimes be really helpful, but we know that they only work for a few weeks at a time. But something that actually really does reward them for the hard work they're doing can be beneficial.
Thanks, Belinda. And once a child is trained for daytime, does that mean that they're trained at night time as well, or is that another process altogether?
It's a slightly different process in that when a child goes to sleep, they can often go into quite a deep sleep, and they're not conscious, and they're not feeling those, I guess, the full bladder feeling or the urge to poo feeling in the same way. And for some children, they just don't seem to notice at all, and they sleep right through it even if they're wet. they don't wake up. And for other children, as soon as they're trained in the daytime, they train overnight as well. And often toddlers will wake up in the morning and they are dry, even just for a few seconds before they sort of sense that they even need to go to the toilet, and then they do a wee. So they could be dry all night, and then just then at the end until they learn. So if they were wearing pull-ups every night or a nappy every night, then they might choose to even just use the nappy because they know they're wearing it. So it can be a good idea to get them out of the nappies and into something like the training pants, so that they actually do feel the wetness, to see if that makes a difference, and then they don't use the nappy.
Okay.
Or it might be an ability thing, so you need to sort of try a few different things.
And lots of patience.
Yes.
Can you share some tips for childcare and preschool time?
Yeah, so it's really good to keep the lines of communication open with childcare and preschool so that they know what's happening at home. You can share what's working, what isn't working, what strategies you're using at home, whether you're using a potty or a toilet seat insert. If it works better, you can bring something in from home and use it there as well. But just have those lines of communication open so that your child is getting similar messages.
And if a parent is concerned and not feeling like it's working for them, where can parents go to get some help and support?
Yeah, so go and see your maternal child health nurse or your GP. They usually have a whole heap of strategies and ideas that you can try, and then they can also refer on to continence clinics and other programs that might be suitable. I think it's good to know that a lot of children won't toilet train overnight until they're even at primary school age, and that's very normal. So keep that in mind, and we wouldn't usually refer a very young child on unless there was something more unusual going on, I guess.
Okay. Belinda, do you have any final tips for tonight?
It's another milestone that your child's going through, so enjoy working through it. Just know that it is probably going to take a few goes to get there, and be easy on yourself, and remember that your child needs to develop those skills, and you need to, I guess, just go easy on them, let them progress through, and you will get there in the end.
Thanks so much, Belinda. And I believe we might have some questions for tonight.
We do. Maria has asked, what tips do you have to overcome a child's fear if they've experienced constipation?
Look, constipation is a really common thing for babies and young children to get, and it can do a number of things. One of the things it can do is make it much harder for them to notice when their bladder's full and when they need to wee, and it can also make give them a lot of tummy pain, make it really hard to pass a poo. So it can work in a few different ways, but trying to make sure they've got lots of fibre in their diet to soften the poo can really help, so that it's not an ongoing problem. And if it is ongoing, it's probably a good idea to go and see your GP about it.
She has asked if you have any tips for non-verbal children when toilet training.
Yeah, look, with non-verbal children and any other special needs children, it's really good to be guided by some of the health professionals that you're working with, because there's so many different abilities and different ways and special strategies that will work for them. So if you're working with any early intervention or PINARC or anything like that might be able to help, ask them for some advice. But sign language seems to work really, really well for many, many children, and even from a very early age, but you would need someone to help you with that. Yeah.
Linda has asked, how late is too late for toilet ready?
I don't think it ever is too late, and some children really just aren't ready at 2. They're not even close to ready. They don't want to slow down and stop. They're not interested, and it's just feels like failure after failure because they're not ready. So I don't think any time is too late, but I think if you've been at it for a few days and you're trying to stay at home most of the time and being really attentive and looking for those signs that maybe they might be needing to do a wee or a poo, and really saying, okay, let's go and have a sit, and it's still not really working, just wait a little while, And then if you think your child is getting too old and that they should be able to do this, that's a time to reach out to your maternal child health nurse or your GP for some support.
And Alison has just asked for a quick recap on the car seat cover. She didn't quite catch the name of that product.
It's a Playette WeGuard Seat Saver. And so it's like a liner that goes into the car seat that's waterproof. And it's got a little hole in the bottom so that the clip actually comes up through it, so you can still buckle your child up, but most of the seat is covered quite well. I think it's really clever.
Julie has asked, should we stop milk before bed when toilet training at night?
No, there's no need to do that. Having said that, they may not necessarily need any milk before bed, but we don't want you to be restricting fluids. All of the evidence shows us that it doesn't actually help, and they need fluids throughout the day as well. And in some ways, if they're not getting enough fluids, they never are going to feel that full bladder either during the day or at night. So no restricting of fluids. Depending on the age of the child though, after 12 months of age, they don't really need to have a bottle or a milk drink at night, but it has often become quite a routine for a lot of families.
Sebi has asked if you have any specific tips for twins.
Twins. I actually think, so I mentioned earlier that it's a good time to do toilet training when you're on annual leave and you're at home, you're not at a holiday destination or anything. And I think with twins, definitely you'd want to have that extra time. And if there's a partner that can help, it would be really great to have two of you to be able to run after two of them, because it is just busier, and it's surprising how often they might need to use the toilet or the potty at the same time. If you are going to be getting a potty or a little toilet or any of these things, obviously in most cases you will need two. And if you're going to use the toilet, remembering you might have one on the toilet and one on a potty. So you will need just a little bit more equipment as well.
Thanks for that, Nat. Belinda, your tips on toilet training tonight have been great, and clearly toilet training is going to be unique to every child. And as you say, patience, consistency and a fair deal of perseverance are probably the key elements in sort of making it a positive experience as children go on the toilet training journey. So thanks again for being with us tonight. You can see more of Belinda and see her book on her website, which we will link to in our post. If you do have any concerns at all about your baby's health or any specific questions about the topics that we've covered tonight, we do recommend that you notify your maternal and child health nurse, doctor or any associated specialist. We do thank you all again for watching tonight, and we look forward to seeing you on the Baby Bunting Live series again soon. Good night.